Okay, part four, Hollywood, television, and the left. So we're talking about how McCarthy wasn't wrong. He was able to get 160, but there was a lot more than that once we discovered the paperwork in the old Soviet Union in Russia in the 1990s. Just how bad the infiltration of Russia's spies were in this country. It was legion. But none of it had to do with Hollywood. The Venona papers showed they had something to do with Hollywood, but McCarthy didn't have anything to do with Hollywood. That's one big lie right there. Second, he didn't find any communists. Second big lie. Then, of course, you have um, the problem with the Hollywood 10. Now, who were the Hollywood 10? And what was blacklisting? Part of HUAC's initiative was to try to find communists in Hollywood. And the reason for this was it was known that the Soviet Union was making attempts to influence the American viewer of, watcher of movies by infiltrating socialist, communist ideas into the movies. And they hooked up with some actors, screenplay writers, directors to get this done. They met them at these parties that they held, these communist party meetings and whatnot. This was known by all. One of the biggest factioning the thing that split Hollywood the most, was the people who were sympathetic to these people or were these people, and the people who were disgusted by them. The right and the left. Some of the left were disgusted by them. Some of the right didn't care about them. Not every liberal was a commie, etc., etc. Not painting a broad brush here. What I am doing, though, is stating that nobody on the right was a communist or a sympathizer of communists. Just saying. Now, was that a big deal? Well, if you're going to take your culture and try to shove it into our culture, that's a big deal. Especially if the two can't go together. Communism, socialism, what have you, and America, they can't work together. It's oil and water. And the only way they were going to do this was from undermining America. One of the ways was industrial complex, federal government, Hollywood. This was known by everybody. It wasn't even a question as to whether this was going on. Only the most guilty, ignorant, and sympathetic tried to make it seem like this was just a witch hunt. They had something to hide, if nothing else, what they thought. But they had something to hide. And they attempted to hide it. Now, lots of people who were interviewed in committees by HUAC, House Un-American Activities Committee, lots of them said, I don't know anybody. I don't know any names. I don't like what you're doing, but I don't know anybody. Some name names. But there was a group of 10, and they made up mostly screenwriters and like that, who not only didn't name names, but called out HUAC as being a bad thing. They tried to shame them publicly. They tried to, disrespect them and their job, and these people became targets. But here's where the next lie comes in. They weren't targets of the government. They were given a year, well, I won't say they were targets of the government. They were punished by the government because they were given a year each in jail, and they had to pay a $10,000 fine. But the targets the big lie or the big misunderstanding is that somehow government, or even by extension McCarthy, created the blacklist and blacklisted these people out of their jobs. No, Hollywood itself blacklisted them because they didn't want to have Hollywood and the movies that they made and wrote for and directed and acted in, whatever, associated with something as ugly as communism. They couldn't afford it. It's all about this. Whether or not they believed they had a right to be communists if they wanted to be communists, whether or not they actually believed in communism themselves, the people in charge in Hollywood and the people between the moguls and the Hollywood 10 decided that they couldn't take the chance. They couldn't take the losses at the box office. You know, a lot of movies and a lot of stuff being made by Hollywood, you know, often a very small profit margin. And they couldn't afford to add to the potential loss of profit. So they blackballed these 10 guys who got their ass in a ringer with the federal government. Only one of them, Edward Dmytryk, who was a director, later named names and was exonerated by Hollywood and taken off the list. But Dalton Trumbo and a whole bunch of others remained on that list for about 10 years or so. And then we all got over it. Hollywood blacklisted them, not the government, not McCarthy, not anybody else. They did it to themselves. Hollywood punished itself. Now let's change our direction to talk about today's Hollywood. The portrayal of the right versus the left using subtle or subliminal messaging, plot lines, etc. Sometimes you're watching, I guarantee you most people don't realize when they're being manipulated. They don't see when someone's throwing something political into a movie or a TV show. They just don't catch it. The liberals have been so successful at mainstreaming and mainlining radicalism that people don't even know when they see something radical anymore. They don't even know when they see something that just a few years ago might have been like avant-garde or holy crap, or they actually showed that, they actually said that, they actually did that. We're being manipulated day by day, week by week, season by season, movie by movie, into taking on and accepting more and more liberalism. For instance, you can't you can't you cannot turn on the television without seeing a number of examples of what I'm saying. For instance, it seems to be de rigueur, it seems to be a requirement now that every TV show in prime time, and without doubt on cable, like HBO and Showtime, have at least one character who is either homosexual or some other pet thing the liberals love to promote. If all of these people that they keep running into, to the degree that they run into them, were as they portray them to be, the percentages of homosexuals in this country would be a lot higher than they are. But here's the inconvenient truth. 6%, and that's conservative. Somewhere between 3 and 6% of American population is homosexual. Just is. They keep trying to play with this number, but it keeps coming back the same way every time. I'm not talking about the girls who go to college and experiment. I'm talking about true believers, lifelong adherents to this lifestyle. maybe 6%. But if you were to watch television, you'd think half the damn population was gay or bisexual or queer or transgendered or what have you. LBGQMOUSE, whatever. It's not the case. But they keep shoving it in your face. And there's a reason they do that. Trying to normalize what is not necessarily normal. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying it's not necessarily normal. Now, I have a little bit of difficulty saying what I'm going to say and say it the right way without coming across as a xenophobe, but I look at ads on television, commercial ads on television, and I've noticed a trend in the last 5 to 10 years. I'm not saying it's a disturbing trend. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm not saying I really care. It's just something I noticed because I am a guy who notices things. I am an analytical type person, and not much gets past me. Call it a gift, call it a curse. Whatever it is, it is. But a lot of the people I notice, put that over here. A lot of the people I notice who are actors on commercials in these ads, fewer and fewer of them are white. Now, again, it doesn't matter because you might say that fewer and fewer people are white. There's a lot more hybridization. I have no problem with this. This is great. Humans are humans. I don't care. But being the observer that I am, I don't just take this as natural, because it's not natural. There's a purpose behind it. People who look, you can't quite tell what they are. They're not quite white or Hispanic or Middle Eastern or black or I don't know what the hell this person is. They have dark hair but light skin or dark skin with light. I can't tell what the hell they are. And there's a reason for this. And that's, again, Hollywood putting these subtle little ideas that they want to promote. Now, is it wrong to promote that we're all the same? No. Is it all to promote that we're all equal? No. I agree with these ideas. What I don't like is someone trying to tell me that there are more gays than there are. Someone trying to convince me that there's a lot more of these people who look non-Caucasian than there are. Because unless you live in certain areas of the country, certain neighborhoods of certain areas of the country, if I go out there and look at the people, I see white, I see black, I see Asian, I see whatever. But I don't see a lot of people who I cannot tell what they are. They exist, and I don't care that they exist. But if you were to go by just commercials by themselves, you would think that half the world, half the country anyway, were these hybrided type of people. Now, I understand they can hide behind the idea that they're trying to appeal to more than just whites, and maybe more than just whites and blacks and Asians and Hispanics and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so by having someone that you can't tell who they are, you appeal to everyone at once. That's really convenient, but I doubt that's why they do it. I'm pretty sure they do it for political reasons. Not a fan of that. Don't like being manipulated. And I am not, because I notice these things. Why don't you? Or do you? I don't know. Now this may be something like who cares? If you don't care about it, why are you saying it? Well, because it's not so much what they're trying to manipulate or what they're trying to do, which I don't really necessarily disagree with per se. It's the fact that they're trying to do it. That's what I don't like. Hopefully that made sense and I didn't sound like a complete ass. But thing has to be said. So subtle, subliminal messaging, plot lines, actors, what have you, all trying to manipulate. And personally, I'm sick of it. But it's been going on forever, and it will continue to go on. The trick is to be aware of it. Now, movies, for instance, have long tried to tell you how to feel about things. But now, of course, they're more out in front, in your face about it. Trying to tell you how bad right-wing ideas and conventions are is the favorite thing of the left today. Or which... And it's funny because there's two parts to this. There's the part where they're trying to tell you how bad right-wing ideals are, and there's the part where they are subtly intertwining fascist ideas. And this is by people who supposedly are anti-fascist. Let's start with the first one. Again, I don't know if you've noticed, but in the world of Hollywood, left wing is mainstream, right wing is radical. Without exception. Without exception. Now, why is that? To me, that sounds like a phobia. To me, that sounds like a fear. To me, that sounds like wishful thinking. That they wouldn't have to promote this so obviously and so constantly and consistently if they didn't fear the truth was something else. This is called wishful thinking. The liberals have gone, in politically speaking, the liberals and the Democrats and the left-wingers have been pulled to the left by radicalism for so long, and so far to the left have they moved. Their center is now way over here. And as a result, the people who are on the right, even just moderate right-wingers, the distance is so great that these people look radical to the people over here. When these people were here, we could talk to each other. We can understand each other. We can relate. There's a little bit of crossover. I haven't moved to the right. I'm not more radical than I was 30 years ago. I'm right here. I've always been right here. The left keeps on getting weirder, more radical, more out there. Now I look like a complete radical over here. A nut job to people who think this is the mainstream. No, this is the mainstream right here. Not this. Understanding perspective, point of view, is very important to understanding the mindset of these goobers in Hollywood and in politics. They think their crap is so cool, so clever, so mainstream that everyone understands, appreciates, and accepts what they're promoting. Meanwhile, America, flyover country, most real Americans sitting right over here are looking over there and going, what in crap are they doing? What are they trying to shove up my nose here? What are they trying to make me swallow? And they don't get it. They simply do not get it. But some do get it. And some are doing all this on purpose. And we'll cover the final part, part 5, about what Hollywood is doing on purpose these days in the next video. Thanks for tuning in.